So I was working on this off stream last couple of days. There's some stuff going on in my house, so I can't stream on the days and hours that I would normally do. So I decided to not stream this past couple of days. And I was working on this off stream on the thing that I was actually working on stream last time. And I'm almost done with this part of it. After I'm finished with this part, I'm gonna start working on trying to make it happen with the scrapey version of this, so I can work on my scraping skills, because these documents I got from the Tor, using Tor with the documentation they give, that Free Code Camp gives on their website. And yeah, and only after that I'm gonna start working on trying to understand how the network X is built with the Ginger 2 template, then maybe try to add some functionality to it. And I managed to get it done here but it's not capturing the right connections, because the way that I did this, it was very. Now I'm not sure if I did it in the optimal way, because the whole way I was doing it, I was thinking about, well, I'm gonna put everything into a list, and then I'm gonna capture the levels of the list based on the way they're put here. And at the end, I'm gonna unnest this list and capture the levels and create the connections that way, using the levels that I created. But now I'm starting to think, because after I researched a bunch, it's actually kind of hard to create lists on the spot. I can use this method here that I found on Stack Overflow, but it doesn't look very nice. It's kind of hacky. And all the other solutions to build lists on the spot are also kind of like that. The people don't recommend to do it. And I managed to find a function that gets the level of the list. And I think I can make it happen. Here is a mock of the data structure that I'm trying to organize into the network X part. I think I can make it happen if I keep trying, but I'm starting to think that it's probably better to change the way that I did this stuff in the first place, so I don't have to deal with the nested list. And I can create a graph on the spot by creating several different lists. And the biggest issue I was having here is that initially I thought that I should build something that can take any levels, because I'm not gonna know the amount of levels that a tree has beforehand. But now I realize that in the way that I built this, the list is always going to contain 6 levels at the end, regardless of how many folders exist, because of the way I'm pushing this into this list here. I'm using this structure which has 3 levels. Then each one of these is gonna be one node here in these nodes, which is gonna contain 4 levels. Then I'm gonna push to the other class, and it's gonna be 6 levels in the end because of this here. So it's always gonna be 6 levels. And my idea was that since network X doesn't care about order unless it's a directed graph, that I can make the connections based on the levels, on this fixed amount of levels, and the network X will automatically figure out which ones already exist and erase them. So if I capture the same levels on different iterations, network X is gonna know that, and is not gonna create the node twice. And that's why I did these things this way. So if I have, for example, if I go down this list and I happen to have the same file outside of this folder, it doesn't matter, because it's not gonna create separately, if that makes sense. If I'm able to capture the levels, I can create the different edges based on the levels. and I'm not gonna lose the information. At least that's what I hope. Because any other way that I was thinking about doing this, it seems like it's kind of impossible to do. Because of the way that OS walk is structured. And then I was thinking about if I try to do it in the other way, that I don't use OS walk, then it might be just too difficult. I'm gonna have to rethink the thing from scratch again, which is not ideal. And then I'm gonna have to figure out how to deal with all the levels, and might be a lot more complicated than the way that I'm trying to do now. But at least this way that I did so far, it works. I'm pretty much unnesting the list at the end, and I'm just making a sequence, which is not ideal because I'm losing the tree structure from the folders, but I'm getting the connection at least of all the methods. So now what I'm thinking about doing is, instead of doing the way that I was doing there, which is basically I initialize here, then I create the node structure, then I assign this method here, pass the file name, then it goes through this, runs the OS walk, then activates this method, and then the add nodes method, and then it cleans the nodes so it doesn't have the same information twice. And this create tree goes through this OS walk. Oh, so here's not the OS walk. Here's just looping through the folders, these main folders here, and then it's going through OS walk, each one of them. And then I'm calling these functions here to set parents and childs based on the information of the subdirectories and files. And that's basically the problem with OS walk, is that it doesn't capture, unless you get the directory and you split it like I did here, it doesn't capture the hierarchy on each iteration. It doesn't capture it properly. So you gotta do it with the dir's name. And that's why I put the index here, -1 for the first iteration, because the parent node is going to be the same as the child node in the first iteration. And then on the second, the parent is the -2, the directory is -1. And that's the issue. I'm only capturing the connection of 1 in each iteration. So on this, I'm capturing ranges to algorithm, then all any none to ranges. But then on the next iteration, it's gonna go directly through here. This is a better example because it goes through here. Once it reaches these files here, it's not gonna give me the parent folder anymore. It's just gonna give me these files on the next iteration, which means I won't be able to capture this relationship between this one and this one, unless I do like this with the directory name. But if you have more folders, more levels, then I'm gonna lose the connection between them. I'm not gonna lose it, but it's gonna be split between loops, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to capture that with network X. I hope that I can capture it just by making this one-by-one connection, because once I set up the levels and I make the edges, then it's gonna automatically connect the repeating nodes. That makes sense. But I think it's better to do it and see what happens in the graph, so I can see if I made any mistakes or if I need to change something. And this turned out to be a lot harder than I thought it would be, which is good because I learned a lot in the process. I had to redo this a bunch of times and change a bunch of stuff over and over again. And I also learned to use the debugger more, become better with the debugger, which is good. So now, once it activates these functions here, it's gonna go through here. And then this is a list that checks if the parent nodes contain the same parent name, because I don't wanna put more than one here for obvious reasons. If the parent node already exists, then I don't wanna put it again. I don't wanna pass it again. I just wanna use the one that already exists, because the file is gonna be connected to that one. But here's the issue, because I'm creating 3 levels here. So what I'm thinking is creating 3 separate lists here and call one list level 1, or the other level 2, the other level 3, instead of having one with the nodes. And then by doing that, I can use those separate lists to create the final node structure. Because then it's a lot easier when I'm creating the network X function. I can just make an edge for each connection of levels and loop through the lists themselves to create the nodes, which is much, much easier than the way that I was doing. I think I'm going to run this function just to show the graph that I got at the end with all the languages at the same time. Oh, and here I also did something. If I want to capture just the state, just one language or specific languages, you can pass a list here as an argument, and then it's going to check here through this argument here. If I do pass the list, it's only going to run this loop through the languages or through the folders that I want to see connection. And if I don't pass anything, it runs through them all. And then I'm saving this into this graphs folder here. So I created two files. They're pretty much the same. So I can test on one, and then if it works, I copy to the other one. If it doesn't work, then just so I don't risk losing what I've done so far. And I can't remember for some reason, or if I change things too much, it might be complicated to go back. Then I created this file to create the graph and test different functions that I was trying to make to see if it works or not. So if I do it the other way, which is the way that I'm thinking about doing, I might just erase the other class and do everything in the same class, just because it's going to be a lot easier. But then the main issue I'm having is that if I have several different languages, I don't see a way to put them. That's the problem I'm having now. I'm trying to think about a way to separate the languages one by one. And if I build 6 different lists, then if I have to nest the lists again to separate the languages, it's going to defeat the purpose of building the 6 different lists. And if I don't append them, then I don't see how to define a boundary between them, between the levels, if I don't separate them into different lists. Essentially, I'm going to have 3 levels for the nodes, for each node of the network. Yeah, that's another thing that I also have to think about, which is if I'm going to be losing the information because I'm only capturing connections one by one. So maybe if I create a way to capture, to check for the list first, this physics model was the best one that I found to visualize this graph specifically. It's hard because it's confusing to think about all the levels and what's happening with OS walk during the process. So I make sure that I'm doing the structure as a tree and not on a different way. I think that's the hardest part of this. So how do I keep the integrity of the connection? And then here is just unnesting the list, the 6th level list at the end with all the languages and connecting them linearly, which is not ideal. It still captures some connections and you have the languages here, and I could change the colors to see where the languages are at. This is CPP here, you can see, starts here. I think JavaScript and Python and OCoquery are side by side here on orange nodes. And then JavaScript is on the other side in an orange node as well. Yeah, JavaScript here. Then Redux, Python. Some of them I didn't found. Maybe they have less connections, so it might be white nodes. Just gonna make that extremely difficult to find them. But I can obviously do the graph one by one if I want to check any of them out by themselves. So now I have to think about how I'm actually gonna do this, because so I'm gonna comment this out. I'm gonna print the tree structure again at the end. Yeah, so this is the list that I'm getting. Has 6 levels here at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have the levels, resize reducer. I think I'm gonna go through the first one, just see again. Yeah, so first is the language, which is here. Language, and then the nodes. And a node has 3 levels: the parent, the child, and the files. Files and subfolders. But you can see here that lang docs, CPP, then subfolders and files. Then on the next one, the CPP algorithm, because it's going through this one. And then it has ranges here. I put the subfolders and the files on the same one because it was easier to structure like this. And I figure it doesn't make that much of a difference because it's already separated by the way that is written. The files have HTML, the folders don't have anything, so it's probably complicating things for myself if I do it, if I try to separate them. And it's a waste of time. But then here is the part that becomes difficult. Now algorithm becomes parent of ranges, and then this file here. And then jumps directly through atomic. So I have to think if I connect each level, if I'm gonna lose any meaning here. And I think not, because this is gonna connect to this, then it's gonna connect to this. These files here. And then this is connected to this. Yeah, here is the redundant part, I think. It's because this is gonna be connected to this and it was already connected here. But then I don't think it's gonna matter, so I think it's fine. Because network X will check and see that the connection already exists. Yeah, but here's one. Yeah, but the relationship is maintained, I think. Because the level difference is the same. Or maybe not, actually. 1, 2. Yeah, that's the problem. Because I'm gonna create duplicates. Because when I check for this one out, this is gonna be level 1. And this is gonna be level 2. Even though here, this is level 3. And this is level 2. So I'm gonna create a different edge for the same thing. If I do it like this, that's the problem. So how can I do this? So let me think about it again. So algorithm is 2, ranges 3. Now algorithm is 1. And then ranges is 2. So in the next iteration, they went up a level. It went up. I'm also worried that if I do it, because I can do a bunch of lists and then a bunch of for loops, then it might become too inefficient. Because I'm just gonna increase the time by a lot by doing a bunch of loops. So I'm also trying to think if there's a better way to do this. Maybe I can filter them in the end there. If I put them all into different lists, then I can create a nested for loop and check each level from the first one to the bottom one. So if something exists on level 1 and level 2, remove from level 2. And so on until it gets to the bottom. And then I create a graph. Yeah, this is the core of the issue, I think, is that OS walk doesn't work for this very well because of this missing connection between levels as is iterating through it. I think that what I should try to do first is not even worry about this and just build it on separate lists like I was talking about. And then only after I do that and I manage to do it successfully, only then I can uh, then I think about I see the graph, I look at the graph and I see how it looks like. I can use a small language to see the connections more clearly. And then I see if it's too big of a problem. Then I try to think about how to filter each list in an efficient way so I don't have repetition in the connection of the edges. So what I'm thinking about now is how, if it's possible to create an instance of a class, because the biggest issue is if I do it with separate lists here, it's not clear how I can separate them, separate each language into a different section, because to create the nodes, I'm gonna have to use all 6 lists or all 4 lists. And if I put the same information on all 4s, then there's no way to separate the boundary between them, between one language and the other one. That's the main problem here. So ideally, what I have to do is create the levels, these 3 levels here, for parent, child, and all files, put them in just 3 separate lists here. And if it doesn't work, then I can just go back from scratch in the other file. So I can do self.level 1 equals empty list, self.level 2 equals empty list, self.level 3 equals empty list. What I spent a bunch of time thinking is because I didn't want it to do like this, but I don't think there's gonna be a better way. I wanted to do something that is more dynamic and that creates the list basically on the fly based on how many languages, how many folders exist. If anyone out there knows how to do that, please let me know. Because I couldn't figure out a way, at least a way that seems legit and doesn't seem hacky. to do it. So I have these 3 levels here. The parent is gonna be level 1, obviously, child level 2, and then files are gonna be level 3. But these all files come in a list, so level 3 is gonna be nested. The child and the parents are just names, so they're gonna be a normal list. So total is gonna be 4 levels, not 3, but it's a lot better than before. And then ideally I would capture these 3 levels inside another list, but without making it too difficult to, because if I have, then it's gonna be 4 levels and it's not gonna be very good. Because this one's gonna have 2, then I'm gonna append all of them inside a bigger list, so it's gonna be self level 1, self level 2, then self level 3 that has 2 levels. So in total it's 4. It's 3 actually. And 1 outside, and 2. But it's still gonna be difficult, I think, if I do it this way to create the nodes at the end. Because then I have to think about also how to wrap that. Yeah. Because I would have to put, it would be a far actually, because I would have to put the name of the language, so it would separate by 1 more level. So another idea is to put self.language there, and then make it equal to list, but then how do I separate them? I think the best way is to separate the classes like I did previously, but I have to find a way to capture this information to connect the 2 classes. So that's why I did this function here, clean nodes, because I just currently right now I'm creating the nodes for 1 language. Then once I have all the nodes, I append them to this here, and then I clean the nodes from this class before creating the nodes for the next language. And that way I'm separating them. So I think I wanna do something similar here now, but doing like this instead. So let me think. Yeah, so if I created another one called self.language, self.language, and then I append at the end the name of the language. How can I make this connection without nesting the list? Because later on I might want, that's another thing. I'm thinking about what if I want to change the functionalities of multiple graphs to find connections between different languages and ways to explore them. Maybe I can create in the future algorithms that become efficient in the exploration of the languages and find solutions based on the hierarchy of the functions and stuff like that. Maybe I can try to capture more meaning behind them. Like create something that is capable of extracting the fundamental aspects of a language and building a design pattern based on that or something like that. And that way, maybe it's possible to build a full stack application and not build it from nothing, but just create a structure based on the patterns of the connection between languages. And that way it would be, in my, at least the way that I imagine right now, it would be 10 times easier to build an application from scratch because you'd have an idea of how to do things. So I want to make sure that I capture the connection, if I want to, between different languages. which means I have to hold them somehow. Maybe I can create a separate, but that's the problem there. That's the problem of the dynamic thing that I was talking about earlier. Because if I create a list for each folder, then it becomes a problem because I don't know how many languages I'm gonna put here. What if I decide to put a lot more or a lot less or whatever size I want? I can't just change the amount of lists manually each time. It has to be something that is dynamically created. So ideally, I would have one language in one block, then another language in another block, and maintain them there at some place somehow. I don't want to use a CSV because I want to challenge myself. I think I already have experience with CSV, and I'm definitely gonna use CSV when I'm doing this version with this scrapey. So I want to try to do this in a way that I don't have to record any information. I can just run the script and get the graph. I also think it is much more cleaner because then you don't have to keep a bunch of files in a folder. Just the files of the graphs and don't need to store the CSV files. So maybe I should just write this down and see what happens and go from there. Just think from there. Append, parent. Then I'll do this twice. 2, double 3. I'll do Charles, all files. Comment this out. It's pretty much the same thing, and here I would comment this out and clean them like this. I also don't know if there's a better way to clean this. I was trying to use set attribute or property methods, but then I thought maybe I was trying to be just fancy there and just not efficient, and this is a better way to do it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, so now I'm cleaning the nodes. So I have to change this print statement at the end so I can see what's going on. I think here is structure dot nodes. Oh, but then I have to print each list now. I'm gonna put list 3. And I also don't have the structure object. Yeah, that's the problem. Oh, I have it here. Node struct. Yeah, because the way that I did is the node struct depends on the tree class to run. Yeah, tree add nodes. Maybe I should just comment this out as well for now. Just so I can see what's happening. Oh, it's level on list. Maybe I should put it like this because it's better actually to visualize what's going on here. Oh, just telling me. Oh, I also don't think I mentioned, but I did a flag variable here. Initialize to 0, then make it equals plus equals 1 on the first one. So it runs through this one in the first iteration and then goes through here on the other ones. Right here, each iteration I'm cleaning the nodes each time, which I explained before. Now I'm getting 3 problems. It's the same thing. I forgot to change. Now let me see what happens here. So I got an empty list. Am I appending properly? Oh, I'm cleaning them every time. That's the problem. So I need to break first. Maybe we can just use the debugger. It's easier, but maybe just break here. Mm. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I think it's 2 levels, like I imagined. So I have the subfolders and the files. I'm gonna close the window there. And probably decrease the light because it's kind of strong. And it doesn't show up there. I'm gonna close the window. So how can I do this? Obviously, the other ones are gonna be one level. Burn child. Maybe I can unnest this list after I pass it. But then it would have to be at the end of the loop. And each one of these is files and subfolders of a different directory. So maybe it's not good to unnest them. Because to create the loop, the nodes is gonna be the problem. Yeah, I'm gonna have to loop twice through this. Create a node to each one, and then make the connection, I think. Yeah. Make the connection to level 2. Then loop to level 1 and make the connection from 1 to 2. And then make the connection from 1 to the language. Maybe if I put it on a dictionary at the end and pass it, but then that's the problem because it gets too complicated. Because if I create a dictionary, then put the language name and this list is going to be a dictionary and then a 3-level list inside of the dictionary, and then it's going to be wrapped around another list on the outside. That's the problem with this. So the question here is how do I connect the 2 classes so I separate each language before doing the graph. Next, S can access them dynamically. So also was studying class methods as well to see if it if this is a good fit for it. And from what I understand, class methods allow you to create an instance of the class instead of the instance of the self, which pretty much means that uh, when you initialize here a class, the tree is the instance and the class itself is tree. So when you do self, you're accessing this instance of the tree class. But when you create a class method, you're accessing the class directly, and that's the difference. And I'm not sure if doing that is gonna be useful here. It makes sense because I could use it to create the languages. I just don't know how or if that's the best approach to do that. I print level 1 here and see what happens. Yeah, that's the thing. Because each one of these, even though they're equal, each one of them is a different subfolder. Or maybe not. Maybe it's actually the same. And it's just showing up multiple times because, yeah, the repetition stuff. Ah. So maybe I can clean this list. I can use a filter. Or maybe it's not necessary because of the network X stuff that I explained already. So let me print level 2 and see what's happening. Just supposed to be the child. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be repeating nodes as well, probably. Yeah, atomic and atomic. But then here is getting, yeah, because the name is the same actually. Well, but it shouldn't show up twice. I think it's the same problem as before. At least these ones are showing up. No, it shows up twice because the first iteration, this is gonna be the parent, this is the child, then it shows up when this is on the transition there. Because the other ones show only once. So how can I do this? What you think? I'm gonna put some music. It's really hot here where I live. Maybe I can create a dictionary here. The last one. It would be good if I could create things dynamically there. That's the problem. I just have to spend some time thinking. There's no way around it until I manage to think about something that I know I can make it work if I just put it everything in a list and create a bunch of for loops. And that might be what I end up doing, but I want to find a more efficient way. I think I have to do the language here. It just makes more sense. So encapsulate everything in a block. But then how can I only append that once? I think I did something like this here. No, I just did it like this. But I remember I was doing something like this, where I filtered the list and I guess only one instance of a name for each language. I create the graph one by one. It's not an option because then if I want to change and create multiple graphs at once, it doesn't work. I think I'm gonna append these three levels into this method and see how this structure works here. But then I would have to append this on the node first. Unless I pass the three levels, but that doesn't feel like is good design. So I'm doing this create tree for each iteration of folders. So it's gonna run once here, and then it's gonna clean the nodes after that. Maybe I can pass to the create tree method, or I can do it here. Maybe I do set parent. I can do set language. I can do the same loop here for the language inside. But then how do I capture the language? Probably the first name of the directory, the dirs. Because here I'm splitting this, I'm splitting the path. The first part of this, the first index of this list is gonna be a dot. And the second, I think, is gonna be either CPP or langdocs CPP, which is gonna give me pretty much the language name. So I think I'm gonna do that. I don't need to do it on the other ones because I can only set it once. So I can do it on the parent there. I can do it there's one. And I can put here language name. if language name not in self dot lang name self dot lang name dot append language name. It's pretty much the loop that I'm running there in the other one. I think that's gonna create what I want there. Hopefully. Surprise. Got another. Oh, it's missing one now, so I have to put it here. Oh, I can just make it default none. And then I don't need to pass it twice. Because it should be setting on the first one anyway. Then if I have to, if it appends all the time, it's gonna be less efficient, I think. So if I only do it once, maybe I don't even need to do the loop actually. But I think it's good to put this just as precaution. I think I'm gonna test it like this and see if it works. But then I'm gonna keep the loop anyway. Just in case. Because it's not gonna slow down things too much, I think. Mm. Yeah, so that's the problem. So I do have to put there. I can just do if language name not done, self appends. Or maybe, yeah, just if language name. There we go. So maybe I don't put the loop actually. If I get problems later, then I'll think about it. Yeah, so now I'm getting the. What if I do it? Language name is there's one. Let's split to here. Not one. Apparently that's not good. Local variable language name value is not used also. Too many blank lines. Nice. So this should give me CPP only, I think. Nice. That's better. So now I'm getting this language name there. And if I append, so maybe if I sum the list, yeah, but if I sum, then I lose the level connection. I can just append them and then go by index, I guess. Yeah, that might be a good idea actually. But then I still have to run a bunch of for loops at the end. So here I'm appending each one through each. And then how would I do that in the end? I'm setting the language name for the first iteration. But then if I append, I get the same structure, I guess, that I was doing before. Uh, if I don't separate languages, then that's obviously bad as well. Maybe I can create a function that appends them to the self-down nodes at the end. But it's the same problem. Yeah, I think there might not be a way to get around this. It's difficult because I have to think about the network X graph variations that I will like to do in the future. There's so many possibilities that it's hard to think about one design that is going to work for everything that I want to do later on. So I don't have to keep changing the functions that are created in the future. So even though I know how to do this stuff, I still don't know if it's the best way. So, so the only way that I think is pass this to another class. Maybe I can set attributes on another class. Huh. Based on this. Yeah, I'll make one attribute for each level. But then how do I create multiple languages? And the way that I'm doing this, I'm appending soft unknowns. I don't know how it's working. And the tree, then add nodes. Really works. And this is inside of here. No, use self to activate the class. Oh yeah, because this is inside of the other class. I remember now. So that was the stuff that I was doing. That's the connection between the classes. Because I'm accessing this class inside of this one. And I wasn't sure if this is the best way to do it, because if I don't initialize this first, then it's gonna break. But I figured that it was okay, because I'm not planning to change this anyway. I can change the other functions if I want to. I think at the end I'm gonna encapsulate everything in the main function and then put the variables that I want to change every time in the iteration. So only run the main function and change what I want depending on that. I also have to clean self.link name there. I do like this. Maybe I should just append them to one of the functions, to a list to see what happens. It would have to be after this self.create. Create another function and then append the lists. So I also looked at the property method of classes, but I think the set property, the problem with using that is that you can only override the property. You can't create dynamically. So I can't create one for each instance. Maybe I could do that actually. Yeah, that's much smarter actually. I just put in the loop. Huh. But then how would I do that dynamically? Because I'm doing here outside. And the problem is that this is inside the class. So the way that I did this. So I can't do multiple instances because maybe I can create another class, the other class, and do multiple instances of that. But then I'll have to pass from one class to the other. It's just gonna add complexity. It's pretty much the folder is the language. folder is the language. Maybe it's easier to create a graph first, and then in case I want to connect multiple different languages, I can just change the function in the graph there. But then how would I check for common threads in the functions or connect not just the top of the names, but different nodes of different languages with each other in case I want to. I can use the bylink file. Another thing that occurred to me is that I should probably put this on a try except block. Because what if I put some language here that doesn't exist in the folders in this directory, the main directory? Then when it reaches this, oh, I'm already checking here if folder in byline. So it's just gonna return an empty list if the language is not there, I think. That's minor stuff as well. Maybe I can use a class method actually to create one instance of a class each time I run this. Yeah, that could be a good idea. Because then I create the folder and then I create a new class. And each class, each instance is gonna be a separate language. And then in case I want to connect them, I can just use just create a function with, I can just put in the function of the network X. Yeah, but that's would be complicated as well. Because I would have to get all the class names for each language outside of those functions or figure out a way to find them dynamically and then do whatever I want to do. Ideally, I can have something that I can pass an option and then change the connections depending on that. I want it to be easy after I have it done. To make changes in the graph and see what happens. I can create a function inside of this class as well, and then connect that way. I think that's what I'm gonna do actually. I can append the self.lang name, and then I can append the other lists. Well, let me try and see what happens. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be stuck here. So I think I'm gonna create it here. Def build tree. Maybe I should name something else. Join nodes. It's better. Then I'm gonna create another list here. Or maybe I can use the self.nodes there. I'm concerned that it's gonna be the same thing that I did before, which defeats the whole point of doing this. Just gonna put lang name, self, level 1, level 2, level 3. Then I can call this right after I call this create nodes here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, so it has 3 levels. It's pretty much the same as before. Let's see if it's only getting the CPP. I think it is only getting the CPP, which is the first one, so it's correct. But then it's gonna have 3 levels. Well, actually, it's not the same. It's actually cleaner because the 3 levels are coming from the last one. And I think the way I was doing before, it had 4 levels instead. So the first index is gonna be the language name, and then it's just gonna follow by index. Maybe I can find a way to. Maybe I can unnest the third list first. Yeah, that would be a great idea. Because if I remember correctly, the third list, I'm not gonna. Oh, I'm actually gonna lose information, I think. Because the third level is the subdirectories and the files combined. So for each one of them, I should create an edge for the second level. So I should loop through them twice. Yeah, but it's gonna be the same thing, I think. If I loop through them twice and create an edge for each one to the second level, it's pretty much basically the same. No, it's actually not the same because then I would be connecting the nodes differently. So let's see if I can paint this. So if I have the second node here, that's shitty, but understand? Then the third level is a list here. So let's say I have 2 nodes here. If I have the 2 levels on this list, then it might be like this, let's say. But if I have only 1 level, then all of them are going to be connected to each one of these nodes, which is not what I want. I want each block of these ones to be connected to their respective. So each element inside of this block should be connected to their respective node in the second level, I think. I think that's the structure. I'm not sure if it is based on the problem of OSWalk of not maintaining the information. I'm not sure if this is the best way to do it, but I think at least is a start there. So I shouldn't unnest this the third one. And so I think I'm gonna have to do it like this. And each one of them is gonna be a language. And then at the end I append these nodes to the other one, which is gonna means that at least I decreased by one level, I think. Let me see. So I think I'm gonna unbreak. And then I'm gonna print the tree instead. So let me see. First it's creating the tree, then joins the nodes, which is gonna be on soft nodes. Then it's gonna add this to the add nodes of the other class. So it should have 4 levels, and each item of that list is gonna be one language. And this was just a method to flatten the list, so I'm not gonna use this because I'm gonna do the graph differently. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5. Yeah, it's one less than the previous time. There was a way to create a different list dynamically on the other class, so I can separate them. I can make a different node. I think that's what I need to search. So instead of passing through this add nodes here and appending that, I think I can go like this. Instead of appending this, oh yeah. So that's why. So I don't need to put this anymore. I forgot about this. So let's see now what happens. Now we should have only 4. That's probably much better this way. Do like this. I forgot about this. Because I did the language name in the first one. Yeah, now it's only 4. So much better. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first level is each separate language. The second level is the name of the language. Oh, actually, the second level is the list itself. Which the index 1 is gonna be. Yeah, the index 1 is gonna be the language name. The index 2. Index is 0 is gonna be the language name. The index 1 is gonna be the level 1. Index 2, level 3, level 2. Index 3. Oh, index. Yeah, index 0, language name. Index 1, level 1. Index 2, level 2. And index 3, level 3. And then the level 3 has 2 levels. I think I'm gonna do it this way because even though I'm gonna do a bunch of for loops, it's not that many from 6.4, I think it decreases a lot. So let me do something different here. I'm gonna do a loop for nodes in 3.3 nodes. Print nodes. I'm gonna check if the levels that I'm getting are correct. I actually have to see as well if I'm not, because it's weird that it's not allowing me to see everything, which means there's probably repeated information here. Because the other way that I was doing, I remember I had some problems with identifying. I was creating more stuff than necessary. I wasn't cleaning the information properly. So I had more names and parent names than what I expected. But maybe it's because maybe this is happening because now I'm separating them in different languages instead of nesting them, which means that the length gets longer. So yeah, that's probably what's happening here. So the first level actually contains all the languages, actually. Let's react here. Let me see how I'm appending this. I'm just appending the nodes. Oh yeah, it's because I'm appending in a different list. So that's correct. So to get through each language, it's 2 iterations, not 1. Yeah, but then this time, the name of the language is already on the second level, which is the difference from the previous one. Our level in nodes, print level. Now I should only be getting 1 language. Oh, maybe actually I'm gonna get all of them because it's going through the full loop. But yeah, there's only 2. Yeah, it gets all of them, but it's separating them now. Where is it? Yeah, here has 2. Then it starts a new one here. So now I have the levels correct, I think, because this is one list with the language. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to do 3 more for loops, I think. So let me think. I think I'm doing everything correctly. I'm gonna run through the debugger and see what's going on. At least in the first iteration. To see if I'm thinking about this properly. Yeah, so it stopped here, the breaking point. I didn't specify the language name, so now I step into this function. I guess the name, subdirectors, step in here. So run to this. I just want to make sure that I'm not passing repeated information. It looks like it's working the way that I intended it to work. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this part is working. So I'm gonna, I think, step out, go to the next one, then join nodes. So node is this. So it has the CPP, then the information. It has 4 items, which is correct. Language name and 3 lists. So I think it's correct. I don't think I need to go over the rest. So now let me think about it. So when I get to this level, it's gonna be, yeah, this is level 1. Maybe I should do, and it's for all languages. So I think the key is gonna dictate which one I'm at. So nodes, I wonder if I can do level key. Probably not. Nodes, I think it's Control Alt Shift J. Select all them. Nodes. Okay. And here put value again. No, actually, it's not necessary to do like this. I was thinking about printing all of them, but put break. So now I think what's gonna happen is gonna show up the languages. Let's see. Oh, when I did that, it changed here. So let me go back and redo this stuff. And so it's not what I was expecting. Oh, it's gonna show me, yeah. So it's showing CPP. 1, 2, 3. Which is not correct. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's what's happening here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm doing something wrong when I'm defining the language name. Clean nodes. You should be cleaning the language name. Or maybe set parent. Oh no, that's, well, yeah, that's the function that I'm using to just set the language. So I think the problem is inside here. But it should be cleaning here. Oh, I have to clean. No, it's correct. I'm adding, then I'm cleaning. So it must be in the, I'm not using these keys as well. Wonder if I can delete this. Just leave it there. Maybe it's shadow name, the problem here. Yeah, shadow name key from autoscope. Uh, there we go. So I think the problem is on set parents here. But this should activate one time for each folder. And it should be cleaning here after. It must be set parent because it's the only, oh, it's probably here. That's the issue. So let me print this. Oops. No, it works. CPP, Django, JavaScript, Node. So this is not a problem. Actually, so what else could be? Yeah, so I'm passing this here. Maybe I should just use the debugger again. If language name, self language name, dot append language name. Well, maybe it's the for loop stuff. Yeah, because I'm passing multiple times. Yeah, I have to do the for loop. I should do it inside here. Now I should solve that, I think. But it's weird that I wasn't seeing multiple instances of the other languages. So I wonder if that's really the problem or not. Or maybe it was the way that the levels that I was thinking about it in the wrong way. So we'll see. And I'm still getting CPP, which is weird. Oh, it's probably because I'm breaking the first time. That's what's happening here. So this loop actually runs 8 times. Yeah, that's what's going on. Because I'm doing 2 loops. And then I'm only getting the first note, which is the CPP. But now it shows me everything. It's so confusing. Let me put the breakpoint here and see what's going on. The issue is that it's hard to see what is actually in here. CPP. It must be something with the loop, because I'm only seeing CPP once there. Oh, let me keep going. This. Yeah, CPP. So nodes is the list with the lists of each language. So level, CPP, VCal, 0. It is what I imagined. Oh yeah, of course. It's because I'm getting the other indexes. They're all. Yeah, that's what is confusing me. Because I'm on the wrong level. I should run one more loop if I want to get just languages. Because this contains a list with a list of each one of these is gonna have all the other languages as well. Yeah, but that's a problem. Didn't think about that. Because then I'm not getting the indexes that I want. What I want is for each language to be separated into its own block. And I thought the nodes would do that. Self.nodes. But for some reason it's not working. Because the first time I created 3, then I set parents stuff. I created 3 lists. Yeah, append. I create a language name, then it releases. Then I run this method, which appends to the nodes, all this stuff. So it becomes a list of these items here. And then I run the 3.nodes, which is gonna append this to here. So this should have a list of that list that contains the information about the node that I want. The language. Then it's gonna add another one on top of that. Should be separated by blocks. Maybe it's just the levels that I'm not thinking about clearly. So let me go through it again. Yeah, now it goes through the other one. Level 2. So 3. Now it goes through the other language, which is a problem. Because this should be separated by a list. It shouldn't be in the same one. So what's going on here? I think. Because I want to capture just the 3 levels, the 4 levels of each language separately. So I can create the nodes that way. If I do it like this, it's impossible to get the levels. So why is this happening? Maybe I'm not cleaning them properly. But I do have the clean method there. How is this not working? I don't understand. That the nodes are a list with this lists here. It should encapsulate that into a block. So the only answer is that maybe I'm thinking about the loop the wrong way. So checks for the folder, then activates this. Or maybe this is the problem here. Because this is creating the stuff inside this one. Then it has the for list once it's done with this. But then it should activate this function here, which puts them all on the nodes. Oh, I'm not cleaning the nodes. That's what I'm doing wrong. That's the problem. And I'm not cleaning the parents as well. Now it should be working, I think. I completely forgot about that. Because I was thinking that, oh, I'm activating the function, so it's cleaning everything, but because I put this stuff here, but I forgot that now everything is on the nodes again, so. And I also should clean the parents. Yeah, so that was a problem. Let's see. Probably that was the problem. Now I should be getting the right thing here. And it's still not working. But now at least CPP shows up, which means that I'm on the right track probably. So now it's probably that issue of, yeah, there we go. So that was what I'm talking about. Now I think it's in the way that I'm thinking. So this list that is activating through this loop is gonna contain the indexes that I want. So, but I'm accessing the first index of each one, which is a little bit confusing. Yeah, because each level is a different segment. So the index of this one is not the index inside of each list. That's why this is so difficult, because it gets really confusing when it's time to put the nodes together. So what if I do +1 here? Now I should be getting all the main directories, the parent directories of each one. So yeah, I think it's working. It does exactly what I'm thinking about. So for each level is a language, a different language. And each index here is going to access each level of the language. So the 0 is obviously the name of the language, the 1 is the parent, the second is the subdirectories. Yeah. Yeah, the second is the second level, is the child, actually. Second is the child, and then the third is the subdirectories and files. So the first level is the language name, the 0 level, I should say, is the language name. First level is the parent. Then the first level is the parent, the second level is the child, the third level is the subdirectory. So here are accessed by levels. I should write here. Let's see if index is taken here. No, didn't use outside, so it's okay. The index of this loop represents each level of each language. The level represents each language. So first level equals to CPP, etc. Yeah, so now I think it's easier to understand. So now I have to think about it, because I'm gonna have to. I need one more loop, that's the problem. Because on the third level, which is this, I'm gonna have to access the nested lists. And then I'm gonna have to make connections. And that's where it gets confusing. And each one of these lists inside this list is subfiles, directories of a child element that is connected to the parents. So let me put here what I want. So first I'm gonna put the description, I think, so I remember of what's going on here. And I think I'm not gonna use this file, I'm gonna do it here because it's easier. Once I figure out the connections here, then I'm gonna, I should probably do this here already. But first I'm gonna put the scheme there, then I'm gonna, oh actually I'm gonna move everything here already. I don't like usually doing things on, it feels like it's crowded, so that's why I try to avoid it. But and for some reason this is giving me a warning. What you put a comment inside a function of a class Python. I think I'm just gonna read the Stack Overflow. It's probably faster. It's triple things. I should use this. Nice. Oh, it already has a blueprint. Name of the file will be saved. Graph data. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so graph data is gonna be lists containing 3 nodes of all desired languages. Returns graphical representation of the parent directory. So once I have this something to work here, I'm gonna erase this and substitute for this. And this I took from the other function I did there for another script, the blueprint. So I think I'm not gonna use this anymore, so I'm just gonna erase this, and I have that function saved on the other files. So just to clean this from here, because that function was just to flatten the lists, which I'm probably not gonna do anymore. So I have the classes here. I think this is fine. And so now is the final part. Also, yeah, I'll think about that later on, but I was gonna say that I have to think about what are the variables and things that I want to keep them dynamic. I think most of them are gonna be on these create nodes. Maybe we should call create graph instead, because it makes more sense. And I think I'm gonna make the color and the size of this, I'm gonna try to make dynamic. Because I remember on the previous one, it was annoying to have to think about each color each time. Makes a lot more sense to separate each of them depending on what I want to do, so I can change stuff and play around. But first, I'm gonna try to make it work. I think is the most important part. And here I should put 3.3 nodes. Yeah, maybe I should test this on a separate file actually, because now I remember that it's kind of annoying to run the graph each time. And here I should also think about a way to make this bilink dependent on a variable or something. I'm just gonna change here, then I worry about that later. I remember that React was really small, so I'm gonna test with that. That's why I'm doing this here. So it creates only the tree with the React language. Then I'm gonna pass, where is it? Here. I wanna pass this, oh, it's already here. And then I'm gonna change this to this. So maybe I should erase this already. I'll erase the first part. Index E and enumerate. Oh, here's another one. Okay. That enumerator confused me a little bit. This one. So now let me think about this stuff that is here. So if index, we're the left data. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna erase all this stuff. Because this is probably not important for now. It's just to create a sequence based on a CSV file or a normal list. So what I do need is the nodes. So node name. I'm gonna put it like this for now so I remember. Target name. I'm gonna have to create multiple edges as well this time. Because obviously I want to separate each level by different edges. So I get a different structure. And I'm gonna have to create one node for each level. Yeah, one different type of node to each level. Oh, and here I can't forget to put source name, target name. Here I think I'm gonna put it level 0. Just so it's easier to understand what's going on. So now I have to write this. So outer level, true access, the already forgot. Because there's two levels, I think the second one is to access the list with the languages. To access and the tree access inside the tree nodes list. Level 1 access the list that contains all languages. Yeah, then the index, then level 2 used to access the third level of each individual language. It's super confusing. I think what I'm gonna do is right here, level 2, level 2, level 1. So now I have to think about the index of this, which is the problem. I should do this in the top here, I think. Because it gets confusing to know which level I'm accessing. Because, yeah. But I don't see another way to make this easier than to do these nested loops. Because you can't run away from having nested lists. Either way that I think about it, I'm just gonna have to use different lists or stuff. Maybe I can append them all to one separate list. I can do this nested for loop. Maybe I should have done that in the beginning actually. Make list 1 with all the names, list 2 with all the sub things, list 3. Yeah, but then the problem is the index now. Because they might have different lengths of indexes. They are gonna have different lengths. So I can't do it like that. I have to do it this way because this way I encapsulate each language into its own separate list. And then since the levels of each list are always gonna be the same based on what I did previously, I know that the index inside of the list is gonna contain the information that I want. That's why I'm doing it this way. Now I just have to think about how I'm gonna access the third level. So the index of the loop, the index of the second loop represents each level of each language. The level loop represents each language. So first level. Yeah, so what I need is the index, which is gonna be 3. So index, so it's actually gonna be level 0, index 1 plus 3. So I can't do that. Yeah, so I should access this outside actually. So why can't I do this? This is 32. I'm just gonna comment this out for now. So I'm gonna get these annoying mistakes here. I'll think about this later. Statement seems to have no effect. So I'm looping through this data, I'm getting this and the index. Then I'm looping through this and I'm getting the thing and the index. This was what I was doing before, but it doesn't need to work now. Or maybe it's because I'm not assigning to anything. Yeah, I was printing before. So maybe I can do it here. Oh, actually, I'm just very confused. I think what I actually want is level 1, index 2, plus 3. Yeah, index level 0, index 1 is going to give me the third element of each language, which is a nested list that contains the files and subdirectories. So how do I loop through that? So what I should do instead of this is for level 0, index 1 plus 3. No. For element 3 in print element 3. I think this works. So I'm gonna use pretty print. And then I should call this. I should comment this out because I don't wanna. Or maybe I can save the file. Doesn't matter. So now what's the issue now? Oh, I changed the name. So it's create graph, not create notes. And these methods outside of the function, so outside of the class. So I don't need to specify. So let me see what do I get here. It seems to be correct. So I'm only getting one list. No, didn't work for some reason. This list index out of range. Hmm. Yeah, man, this is super confusing. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. So maybe what I should do here instead is, or maybe I should just use the debugger actually, to see what's going on. Oh, now it works. Huh. But it's probably not the thing that I want. React is only creating for the React. Yeah, that's correct. Because I filtered upstairs on the other function. So, but it's printing the React link docs, which is not what I want. And the graph is probably empty because I didn't create the nodes. Well, created here, but oh, actually, how is this possible? If I don't have the nodes. That's just empty. So it creates an empty thing. And it doesn't have nodes. So I'm printing element 3 and it's printing everything. Which is probably not, yeah, it's definitely not what I wanted. I'm not printing anywhere else. Yeah. So maybe I should comment out the instructions to create graphs because I don't want to keep deleting that every time. Closing the window every time I run the function. So I'm gonna think a little bit about this, and if it's too confusing, then I'm gonna debug and stop through this. Just see what's going on. Let me put some music first. So the index of the second loop represents each level of each language. The level of the second loop represents each language. So first level equals CVP, etc. The index of the second loop represents each level of each language. So index plus 3 should be let's see. Maybe this is what I want. Yeah, the third level should be the one that, yeah, that's probably why I was running out of range there. The level of the second loop, so this should probably be on the 1, yeah. Because I have to loop through all of them. So I want to loop through each level 1, getting the third index of each of them. And I want to loop through that, which is gonna be third element. Out of range. So what's happening here? I think I'm gonna comment this out and I'm gonna really print index level 1. Let's print level 1. So level 1 is a list of lists. Fingerprints, level 0. Yeah, so that's and the first one is to access each language. The first one is to access the list that is going to contain each language. So this is the list that I created there on the first class. Language name, first level, second level, third level. That's level 0. 3 nodes list. So that's correct. The second is to access each language. So to access these nodes. Which should mean that level 1 is the each node of the language, which is what I'm getting there. One, two, three, four. So yeah. But how do I only get the third level? Oh, that's why I'm running out of range because I'm doing +3, but actually it doesn't work because the index is going to increase by 1 each time. So I think I get it now. Maybe I should just pass 3, actually. It's way easier. Then I don't need this index anyway. Index of the second level represents each level of each language. But maybe when I have more languages, it changes. Didn't think about that as well. Because when I only have one list, no, but it shouldn't change actually. Because inside of the second loop, I'm already accessing each language by themselves. That's why I'm accessing the block that I created for each language. So I don't think it should change. So maybe the enumerate is not unnecessary. Yeah, because the level 0 is the one that has all the languages. So the level 2 should be, which is actually the level 1, should be the same each time, whether I have one language or more. So the third element should work to access. Maybe I should change this. I'm just thinking whether it's better to leave it for visual purposes because it's easier to visualize the levels and the indexes, or if it's better to just take it off. Apparently it doesn't work. List index out of range. Let me see if I keep the enumerate. That's weird. So let's see what is level 1 again. Oh, this. Should 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's because I'm getting the. I'm trying to get the third index of each one. That's not what I want. I actually want level 0. That's the thing. I want to access the third index of the level 0. Because level 1 is each one of these. Yeah, I want to access the last level 1. Which is level 0 for 3 actually. Because it starts at 0. It's just weird because it doesn't feel right to have do the same thing here. For some reason. Yeah, now I'm getting the correct thing. Which is the list containing the elements. So I'm gonna erase this and see if I can keep doing like this. But I think it's gonna be better to test with 2 languages actually. Now that I think about it. So I need to loop through each element of this. For level 2 in level 3 print level 2. There we go. Oh, but I'm getting it 4 times. But maybe it's because they are all the same. Yeah, they are all the same. So it's actually a list of 4 things but all of them are the same, so it shows up the same. Which is not a problem because the network X will just obviously it would be more efficient if I just got one, but then it might fuck up all the other ones. That's the problem. So I think it's better to make it less efficient, but instead of trying to think how to make it work. Yeah, the biggest issue is if the final graph doesn't give what I want. I think then I'm considering just giving up on this one and continuing the scraping one after that if it doesn't work, because it might be just not worth it to put in the extra work to. Might be just better because I think doing with the scrapey, the hard part of doing with the scrapey is getting the data, but once you get the data, I think creating the nodes is gonna be a lot easier because it can structure the files differently. I remember on the site that it didn't actually have subfolders. You just have the main categories and subcategories. So it would be able to put everything in a single list. But then I might lose information there, so. Level 2 on the third loop. Access the third element of each language, which contains subfolders and files. So now I have to think about what I want to do for each one. I think I can erase this. So here I'm gonna print level 1, print level 0. I think I can just read here. Access inside the 3 nodes list. Access the list that contains all the languages. And so for each level, I want to connect level 0 to level 1. So I need to create an edge and a node here. So I'm going to put comments create level 0 node here. Here create level 1 node and edge between level 0 and level 1. Then here create node create level 2 node and edge between level 2 and level 1. I think I'm not missing anything. Just want to make sure that, so I'm gonna have one edge here and another edge here. Yeah, so it's basically 2 levels, and the other levels were just to organize different languages. But then there's another level of complexity, which is what if I want to create different nodes for each language? That's gonna be tough. Oh, yeah, that's the problem, because on the first level, I can't create the nodes there. Because I'm not accessing each language. I'm only accessing each language on level 1. Yeah, so actually this is not what I want to do. I want to create yeah, it's on the second level that I'm gonna create all the nodes. That's the thing. That's why it's confusing. So if I want to create different nodes for each language, then I can just do if statements inside of this block for each index of the level 0. Level 1 is going to be each language. And then the index is going to be the index of each language. I think I'm going to put here I think I should focus on building it first, then I think about what I want to do for multiple languages. Otherwise, it's just too confusing. It's better if I have the structure first. So let me focus on just one language. Access the list that contains all the languages. Yeah, so level 1 is each language. Index 1 is the index. I should just use level 0 because it's easier to think about it. So I can use level 0 to, so create level 0, 0 node, which contains language name. Then create level 0, 1 node, which contains parent's beer name. Create level 2, oh, create edge actually. Between level 0, level 1, and I did the other way around. Here's 0, then 1. So one step at a time. So first I create the node for the language name. Then I'll create a node for the parent name. The first parent name. Then I'll create the edge between them. So maybe I don't need the index one actually. But after that I create the nodes for the second level, which is actually the third. Yeah, the third is gonna happen here actually. So I don't need this. Just trying to think if this is correct or not. And the fundamental problem here is that I'm capping to 3 levels because of the problem of the OS walk stuff. But then I'll have to redo everything again and spend a bunch of time thinking if there is a different way to do this. With OS walk, which I don't think is gonna be possible. No, I'm missing the, yeah, this is what's wrong. I'm missing, actually, I have to create level 0. There's 4 elements. Create level 0 node, which contains child, yeah, child their name. Then I create edge between level 0, 1 and level 0, 2. Yeah, now it's correct. Just so I keep it in the same format. And edge between level 0 sure. Yeah, now I think it's correct. Yeah, the issue is that I'm gonna cap to 4. So if there's a directory there that says a lot more levels, it's gonna be a problem because I'm losing the information there of the tree by doing it this way. Because I'm only getting the 2 last levels for each iteration. So if it goes deeper than that, I miss the connection there. The question is, is there a way to capture that connection? Yeah, the problem with this is then I was thinking about maybe I should get the length of the directory name. Then I can make the indexes based on that length. But then I'll have to create another other lists dynamically based on that. So I can create more levels. And then I would need to append all those levels into the list, to the main list. And then I would have to think about a way to do this dynamically. So it's pretty much, at least that approach, it shouldn't work, I think. It doesn't work. So what else can I do? If I'm only getting the two last nodes. Yeah, but each iteration I have the connection. That's the thing. I need to think about a way to make the link between iterations on the two last nodes. But the problem with OS walk is that it goes first inside of the folders, but then when it goes back, it doesn't continue. So there's no way to predict except with the folder depth somehow. But then how are we gonna keep track of the structure? Yeah, maybe if I calculate how long it goes, the length of the directory name, then once it goes, yeah, but that was the level stuff that I was stuck in the beginning, which just doesn't work. You try to separate the how deep does it go on each iteration, so I can keep track of the leaves. And that's why I did this way. Oh, but maybe is the names. Yeah, because maybe it will create different connections based on the names. Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Is that I think that it might be the case that actually, if the names are different, it doesn't matter that there's only 3 levels here. Because the connections are still gonna be represented in the way that they are supposed to. But maybe that's not the case, actually. I'm thinking about it the wrong way. Because the issue is that if there are more folders, then this last list should be broken down into leaves themselves instead of all of them being connected to the last node. So what I'm doing is actually simplifying the tree after the 3rd level, and that's what's happening here. So everything that is deeper than 2 levels, than 4 levels actually, 3 actually, because the first one is just language name. Everything that is deeper is gonna be crunched into the bottom node, which is the 3rd one. So maybe I should spend some time thinking about that. I think I'm gonna finish doing the graph just to see how it looks like. But it might be possible actually if I just think more about it to figure out a way to make it so it's not like this. So pretty much what I think is happening here is that I have this tree here. Let's say this is a tree. So language name, then parents, childs, sublist, do it here. I'll get the point. So yeah, the first level, second level, third. So here is gonna stop going the way that I did. So when it passes this point, these nodes below are gonna be as if now let me think. Because each iteration that the child is gonna be parents. I'm getting 3 levels above each iteration. Yeah, so I think once it goes through this node here, and then it goes back to the main one, that's the problem. Because I'm appending each one in the wrong levels. Yeah, that's what's happening. So this node is actually going to be considered as node 0 or level 0 or level 1 when it's actually level 4. So this node is going to be connected here. That's the problem. And the question is there a way to extend the levels until it reaches the bottom of the folder? Instead of doing like this. Trying to think maybe if I create a different, if I create an if statement or something like that, that can tell me when the folder got to this level, I restarted somehow, and start counting from, yeah, but then I would need to create more levels. That's the problem. I'm just gonna finish doing, because that's gonna take me a lot more time to think about it, I think. So I should just try to finish this. Then I'll think about that later. So create level 0 node which contains language name. So now I'm gonna copy this stuff. I think I'm gonna erase the colors for. Then create the edge here. And here I should create another node and edge. I should put this on try accept block. So try accept exception. So now everything is correct. So just need to change the names. And the colors probably. And here, I think that's it actually. Now, yeah, I created the object of the network X up here somewhere. Up here. Here. Yeah, right above this. So this is the part of the file that's not part of the classes. And that I'll probably encapsulate over a function. The main function. Whenever I want to change stuff. Or maybe I can just encapsulate or not encapsulate anything at all and just write if name equals main and then put this stuff below there. That's probably cleaner because that way I can just, yeah, pass each thing separately there. And I think I'm gonna run this as a script. So let's see if this works now. Hopefully it works. I would worry about the colors later. So it didn't work. Oh, it's because I'm not creating anything. Which one comments this? And I don't understand why it's giving me a bunch of space there. Maybe it's the exceptions, but it should be printing something. And so it's not working. It probably means I did something wrong there. It definitely means I did something wrong. Just not good. So let me think. I think I'm calling properly. It's probably the last part. The graph that is not working. Yeah, this is giving me the list. Still giving me a bunch of empty space, which is weird. It might be the exceptions actually. Yeah, it's probably that, but I'm not sure why it's not printing. So I'm gonna debug, I think. It's better. Should try to use print statements. Hmm. So I can't create this now. I think the better thing to do is actually comment this out. Invalid syntax. Hmm. Oh, it's probably the try here. So I'm not passing a string. That's probably the problem. Oh, maybe it's the other iterations. That's the problem. Didn't think about that. Yeah, maybe I'll have to separate actually. Oh, but I actually. This is just getting level 0. 0. Yeah. Oh, so maybe if I turn this into a string, it will work. Let me try. I'll do this for each one of them. Because I'm passing in the list and not the... Oh, it's easier to actually make it equal to a variable, of course. Hopefully this works. I wanna see if it breaks on the other one. Yeah, now it's breaking on the other one. So I'm just gonna do this for the one, sure. These are the same. So now let's see if it breaks here in the bottom. Nice. So Hopefully this works so I don't have to change a bunch of stuff. So now I think they're all, because this one is a string here. It's weird that it's not printing the exception there. Just giving empty space. Hmm. Yeah, so I guess it didn't work. It's getting these nodes, everything on this node. On the third level, one, two. It's probably doing the loop there. One, two, three, four. That's the problem. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to rethink everything. Because it looks like that. I think it works. It worked the way that I did. But the issue is that the first part there of the way that the nodes are interacting. Because I'm just nesting everything into this probably. Because I'm not capturing the levels properly. I think the first part on the network worked, which is actually bad news because now I have to think about everything again. Maybe I should try to change the nodes somehow to get a different graph. I'm gonna put all languages and see what happens. See if just this one. It's probably all of them is gonna be the same. Yeah. Hmm. I have to think. What will I do? So this is obviously trash. I'm not gonna be able to use this. The other one is okay, but of course not ideal. I kind of wanted to make it happen though, because it will be interesting to have the two types of graph. This made out of this, and the other one with this creepy. I'm not creating here. Maybe the script will give me the same thing actually. Because it all depends on how I choose to make the connection. That's the thing. That's the most important part. So I think I need to redo this, but think first on how I'm gonna build the connections. Because actually it should be a tree because each language is gonna have different methods and different things in different sections. That's how it works. So it is a structure, a tree structure of folders for each language. And then each language is gonna have connections between methods as well. So if I'm capturing the relationship correctly, it should be a tree and not just the two levels there or three levels. Because even with the four levels, the way that I visualized in my mind was four levels, but kind of like a tree structure where it grows a lot more in the bottom. And connecting one by one, uh, I can see there's actually a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different ones. Otherwise, this one wouldn't have a lot of nodes. Yeah, so this is what I have to think about. How to make the connections. Maybe I can do something even different than what I was thinking before, which is I can create the connections arbitrarily. Basically, make the. But then I'll have to know the structure of the language, so it defeats the point. Because the whole idea is to capture what the essence of them. So let me go to the site again. So it should have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 16, 17, 18, 19. Should have at least 20 nodes, the first one. And each one of these nodes should have all this. And when doing with scrape, it's going to be a lot easier to separate this because I can just put one on each column of a CSV and make the rows the subcategories. So the columns are going to be the folders, and then the subcategories are going to be each column. So it's going to be a lot easier. But I want to do it. I want to make it happen because I already spent a bunch of time trying to make this work. And I think it would be cool to have both of them to compare. So maybe you should think about how to change your structure in the beginning there. If I could make that happen, then I think it's gonna be a lot better actually. The visualization, because it doesn't make sense. You should have at least this amount of nodes here for the first. So obviously I'm doing something very wrong there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13, 14. Yeah, so there's 24 here. So it should have at least 24 nodes there. And then each of one of these should have all of this. Maybe if instead of using the OS walk stuff, I use another method and scratch the OS, since I'm already gonna have to do pretty much everything from the scratch again. At least I have the structure now, which is the good side. So I don't have to rethink everything. I can use the same structure and just change the way that I'm going about it. So I think it might be actually easier to not use OS walk in the first place. Maybe if I could loop through each folder recursively. Out of the main loop, which is this one loops throughout the folders. I think I can keep this one, because then I'm gonna activate each function, each separate block for each one. So I think maybe here I can create, on this create tree, I can create a recursive function. Yeah, maybe that's better design actually. I'm thinking about whether or not I should try to create a graph, the network X, inside of this function, this create tree function, or if I should leave it for later and try to make the connections first, the data structure with the connections. Because if I make the graph, it's going to be a lot easier, because I can just create the last connection here. After this one finishes, I can create the connection outside here. Yeah, it would have to be a recursive function. That's the issue. So I think I probably need to do the graph for each one first. And then I'm not gonna have any way around it, because I'm gonna have to save to a CSV or something like that in order to separate them. Oh, actually, I can, yeah. I was gonna say that I can change the nodes, but that's not good, because I want to be able to merge languages if I want to, without having to manually change the function. So if I create a separate graph for each one here, then it's gonna save to a file the graph for the language. And then if I want to merge functions, I'm gonna merge languages, I'm gonna have to change here, which is the problem. So let me think. Hmm. This is extremely anticlimactic. Ah, yeah. At least I'm learning a lot through this process. And if it doesn't work, I can just use this one actually. One thing that occurred to me when I was doing this off stream is also I wonder if it's possible to do this to actual languages, not just programming languages. I think it's definitely should be possible. So it might be another interesting project. Just take all the grammar, the syntax from all the languages, and put it in a graph like this, and try to connect the nodes. It's probably something similar to this. And I think that's actually what's happening inside the brain. It's just we're synchronizing ourselves with the structure, which is a logical structure, depending on the environment of the universe. And everyone's constantly updating based on that. Because everything is just a matter of different connections. So let me think. So I need to think if I can create a recursive function for each one of the folders and make connections based on that. In a way that it's going to be easier to create the graph later. Maybe I can just create a dictionary. That would be actually a lot easier, I think. Now that I think about it. Oh, I have all the files here as well. Yeah, so I'm looking through this one. So this is the one that is gonna be passed here. So if I did without the OS walk, I would also need to get the files at the end there. Not just the directories. So let me think. Yeah, I think trying to do with the also walk is probably not the best. You can try to make more complex data structure and then try to create lists and all this stuff. But I think it's not the best approach. I was trying to avoid doing it the other way because I thought that it would might be more difficult, because I'm probably gonna have to use a recursive function, and then I have to think about how I'm gonna create this structure. I think the best way, at least the way that I'm thinking about it right now, is to create a dictionary. So I loop through the folders recursively. I'm gonna pass this folder outside of this function. Then inside of this function, I'm gonna do it recursively. Because each time, well, actually, I need another function for, yeah, I have to create 3 functions actually. Is because I want to separate with each one. I think that's the best way. So the first function loops through this, which is the main folder. Yeah, but then it doesn't make any sense. I have to make it happen with the other function. Because doesn't matter how many subfolders and files I have, if the first function doesn't work, if the second function doesn't work, the first one won't work. It has to follow the same logic, so I think I need to figure out a way to, yeah, do this recursively and then put in a dictionary this stuff each time. That way that the tree is gonna be a nested dictionary. And the deeper it goes, the deeper the dictionary goes. And I think if I can make everything inside of dictionary, then I remember seeing that you can unnest dictionaries in Python and make them all one level. And I think that would work because I would retain the keys for each level. And then I can just loop through that as many times as I need. So I think I'm gonna write this down. Actually, I have a file here. I think I'm gonna try this approach. If this approach doesn't work, then I'm gonna do this scrapey. Then I'm gonna move on to the scrapey stuff. So create recursive function that contains a nested dictionary with tree folder structure. Use start tree function, loop through main folder containing languages, and call recursive function. Recursive function that contains a nested dictionary with tree folder structure. So once I have that, append nested dictionary structure into list of another class. So I have list of all languages. Use star3 function to loop through main folder containing languages and call recursive function. Create recursive function that contains a nested dictionary of 3-folder structure. Append nested dictionary structure into list of another class. So I have a list of all languages. Loop through list of all languages, calling function. Or actually, calling function to unnest. Maybe flatten is best. Dictionaries. I don't remember actually if the key is retained, but I think it is. Yeah, but if this approach doesn't work, then I'm probably not gonna try to do it the other way because I just don't have time. I think it's better. I'm better off doing the scrapey version and settling with the less, yeah, the one that doesn't capture the connections really well, but gets all the data. Because that one is already enough to later on when I create new functionality to that 5V's network X library, I think that one is going to be enough to navigate through the folders, through the documentation. But obviously it's not ideal. But then I can try to see, I think it's more productive to try to figure out with the scrapey. Because I think with the scrapey, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier. And I'm more hopeful than trying the more complicated approach here with very complex data structure. So use star3 function to loop through main folder containing languages. I think I'm gonna build this separately here. And I'm gonna copy these two functions and I'm gonna do them separately. I'm just gonna comment this out. Oh, I don't understand why the self is not giving me. Oh, it's because I'm passing here. Yeah, so maybe I should copy the class actually. Actually, I think I'm gonna do it in this file. Scratch that. I was gonna do it there, so it is more clean, but I remember that I already have the other file, so. Whenever I build stuff like this, where it takes a lot of time, I usually don't wanna erase the stuff that I did. Because then I'm worried that I would need something that I did and that I erased. But I think in this case here it doesn't matter because I already have another file. Unless I want to change something on the nodes here, then I'll probably do on the simple graph. Yeah, so use start3 function to loop through main folder containing languages and call recursive function. Create recursive function that contains a nested dictionary of 3-folder structure. Append nested dictionary structure into list of another class, so I have a list of all languages. Loop through list of all languages calling function to flatten dictionaries. Now the last part, notes based on dictionary keys. That's the part that I'm uncertain about because it might be necessary to create the because I'm not gonna know how deep they go. And I can't use dictionaries to create nodes. It has to be a string. But I think I can access them by yeah, because the big problem is that I need to capture the connection for each one. Yes, I think I need to see if I can get levels of nested dictionary in Python. Let me see what time it is and how much time I spent here. 3.5 hours. Yeah, it's already late. Maybe I should leave this to tomorrow. And the thing is, I want to keep going because now I want to solve this. I think what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna close this stream and I'm gonna do this off stream. I think I'm gonna continue this and then tomorrow I'll probably come back to finish if I don't finish today. I'm gonna try to build things and see where it goes. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it to try to modify the things I did here so I get a different data structure there. It's probably not the best path. It's probably better to just try this other approach and see what happens. I think it looks, at least in my mind, a lot more promising. Yeah, so I'm gonna do that off stream. I'm gonna work on this function here, create tree. The way that I explained there, recursively looping through this and see where it goes. And then tomorrow I'll probably continue this on stream. So see you.